standard form to begin with. But it looks like this. ax squared plus bx plus c is what we call our kind of standard form of our quadratic, where a, b, and c just stand for numbers. C is going to be like your constant in the back. A would be like your leading coefficient, a kind of term we talked about on your... To solve quadratics, we use what's called an x. All right, just this thing on the side. It's basically we're going to fill in pieces today, and that's all we're going to practice. So how we fill in the pieces of this x is we identify what our a, b, and c terms are. So we just take and we look at whatever quadratic trinomial we were looking for. We would look at what our a, b, and our c is. And those are, again, just going to be a and b will be coefficients, c will be a constant. We put the product, we take the a number times the c number, and we put it in the top of our x. Whoever is open. So a times c, it will be up here. So we do like a times c, and that'll go up there. We'll find the product of those two numbers, put them on the top. Whatever our b number is, or our b term, we put it right here on the bottom. So again, these are all numbers. We're just using letters so we can show how it works in every case. And what we have to do to fill in on the side, so this is kind of like the last step once we fill in, we need two numbers that when we... So we're going to fill in two numbers on the side here. There's going to be two numbers that go inside these boxes. These two numbers, whatever we fill in on our box, they're going to multiply to the number that's on the top. And they're going to add to the number that's on the bottom. So I like to write the times for the top, a plus for the bottom. Let's put this into practice with an example. So if we look at example 1, the first thing we'll have to do is identify our a, b, and c terms. What I'm going to do is just put a little 1 in front of this x to help us. And we go, our a term then is going to be 1. Our b term is negative 11. And our c term is 28, because this is like ax squared minus bx plus c. So using that same standard form. And then we draw a little x. So, okay, I know on the top I have to put a times c. So a times c is 1 times 28. So 1 times 28 is just 28, so that goes on the top. My b value is negative 11, so negative 11 goes on. Now we think. We need two numbers that multiply to 28, but add to negative 11. And this is where we look at our yellow chart now. So everybody find where 28 is in bold on the yellow chart. And we had to think, okay, so our options for 28 are 1 and 28, 2 and 14, 4 and 7. So we're looking which way we can make one of those to add to negative 11. Well, all these numbers are positive on the yellow sheet, but they add to a negative number, right? So the only way that we can multiply to get to something positive and add to something to get to something negative, they both have to be negative numbers, because a negative times a negative is a positive, but a negative plus a negative is still a negative. So our options are negative 1 and negative 28, but if we add those together, we get negative 29. We could say, okay, negative 2 and negative 14. That also multiplies to a positive 28. But negative 2 plus negative 14 would be negative 16. So we say, okay, what's our last option? 4 and 7. Negative 4 times negative 7 is positive 28. And negative 7 plus negative 4 is negative 11. So two numbers that multiply to the number on our top, but add to the number on our bottom. And it's a little bit of a puzzle. If I know this is a positive and this is a negative, both of these have to be negative. Only way I can multiply to a positive number but still add to a negative. All right. Another example now with a little bit of smaller numbers. Let's go through, do the same thing. When you practice these a little bit, well, you don't have to go through and label it each time, but it's good to start out. So our A is 1, our B is 2, our C is negative 15. So we draw our X. On the top of our X, we have a negative 15 because we take 1 times negative 15. That's negative 15. And on the bottom, we have a positive 2. All right. So then we look at our yellow sheet, and again, we're multiplying to the number on the top. We're adding to the number on the bottom. 15, our options are 1 and 15, 3 and 5. We need it to be, this number is a negative on the top, but we add to a positive number. So I know only one of these can be negative. All right, because there are two negatives, it would be a positive. They're both positive, this would be a positive. So I know one of these two numbers is going to be negative. All right, well, we do negative 1 plus 15, that would be 14. If we do 1 plus negative 15, that would be negative 14. So I know 1 and 15 isn't going to work, so I have to do 5 and 3. One of them has to be positive, one of them has to be negative. I think, okay, 5 minus 3, or 5 plus negative 3, will get me positive 2. So I know my options, or my only option is 5 and negative 3. These numbers multiply to a negative 15, but when I add them together, it's a positive 2. It doesn't matter which side, these blue numbers, it doesn't matter which side you put them on. This could be negative 3, 5. Order doesn't matter when you're filling in your X. The only position that matters is that the top is A times C and the bottom is B. All right. Do another one. A is 1, B is negative 7, C is negative 18. So on the top of my X, I'm going to take my 1, my A times my C. So that's negative 18. On the bottom, I put negative 7. So I think to myself, if this number is a negative, your number on your top that you have to multiply to, well, if I have two negative numbers on both sides, when I multiply them together, it's become a positive number. So I know one of these has to be negative. So I'm going to look at my numbers for 18. 18, I have 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 4 and 4. The easiest way to do this when you're looking at the numbers, think which between the two numbers in the list, is there a difference of 7 somewhere? Well, between 1 and 18, there's a difference of 17. Between 3 and 6, there's a difference of 3. Between 2 and 9, there's a difference of 7. So then it's just picking out which one is positive, which one is negative. Well, I tried negative 9, plus 2, that gives me negative 7. The other option would be negative 2 plus 9, but that would give me a positive 7. So I know that's not my answer. So I know my numbers on my side have to be negative 9 and positive 2. All right. I'm just going to go ahead and fill in my x right away. I know my a term is 1. My c term is negative 40. So I take 1 times negative 40, and I get negative 40. I have a 3 as my b term, so a 3 goes on the bottom. If you want to add the plus 3 to help you, sometimes that's a little bit of an extra guide. We multiply to the number on the top, and we add to the number on the bottom. So negative 40. So we're looking at 40. My options are 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 4 and 10, 5 and 8. So again, point to which one has a difference of 3 between them. 1 and 40 is a difference of 39. 2 and 20 is a difference of 18. 4 and 10, there's a difference of 6. 5 and 8, there's a difference of 3. And if it's a positive 3, I know that my 8 has to be the bigger number. So I take 8 minus 5, and I get still a positive number. So 8 and negative 5. These two numbers, they multiply to negative 40. When I add them, it's positive 3. All right. Last two. When these are small numbers, for whatever reason, they become trickier for some people. So just as a fair warning, we're going to do it the same. We take our a times our c, so it's negative 9 up here. Our b is negative 8. And again, I think the easiest way to solve these, which means just figure out what numbers are on the side, are think. I need to find two numbers that multiply to 9 that have a difference between them of 8. So I look at 9. 1 and 9, 3 and 3. Well, 3 and 3 has a difference of 0 between them. 1 and 9 has a difference of 8. So then it's just the game of playing which one has to be positive, which one has to be negative. Well, I know this, it needs to stay negative when I add them together. So my larger number has to be negative. My smaller number has to be positive. Negative 9 times 1 is negative 9. Negative 9 plus 1 is negative 8. So again, I knew it right away because of the difference between these is 8. Then I was just figuring out which one's positive, which one's negative. Last one, similar example. 1 in, we would have negative 7 up here, 6 on the bottom. One thing that'll always be true, if these numbers are consecutive, meaning again counting order, one comes after the other, it's always going to be the factor 1 and something else. So I know like 7, the only options to multiply to 7 are 1 and 7. So I just have to pick out which one's positive, which one's negative. I want this is a positive number. So I want, when I add them together, it has to stay positive. So my larger number has to be the positive number. My smaller number has to be the negative number. 7 times negative 1 is negative 7. 7 plus negative 1 is positive 6. 7 minus 1 is 6. All right.